By Labor Day, 1967, Tom Muldoon found himself serving aboard the USS Guadalcanal, a helicopter carrier docked a few miles outside of San Juan. His duty had taken him to some of the Vietnam War's most ferocious battle zones: Aruba, Martinique, and the Charo concert. The department Tom ran aboard the ship handled all phases of visual signaling, where his Sicilian heritage came in handy. Some evenings, Tom and his friend Butch Winstead would go ashore on vital reconnaissance missions. They would infiltrate hotel pools, ascertain the whereabouts of two attractive young women, and woo them. Once visual contact had been established, one of the men would have his choice of target, as determined by the toss of a coin. And if a coin was not at hand, by single combat. On this Labor Day weekend, at the pool of the Sheraton on Condado Beach, the targets were two young women from Queens. The coin was flipped, and fate determined that Tom would approach Pat. Unfortunately, Pat wanted nothing to do with Tom. She repeatedly tried to swim away from Tom, but only got as far as the other side of the pool. For someone who ran the signal division, Tom was having a hard time reading them, but he would not give up.
Would you like to come out to the ship this afternoon?
Sorry.
What finally got Pat's attention was an invitation to dinner aboard the Guadalcanal, with 50 officers who weren't Tom. Whether it was the majesty of the ship, the romance of the sea, or the 25-cent drinks, it was clear that something was happening. Later that evening, they returned to San Juan to enjoy music and dancing. Tom spared no expense. As the evening stretched on, he spent well over $3. How the evening ended is lost to the ages, but Tom and Butch both returned to the ship happy.
What a time we had tonight.
The next morning, Tom took the girls to church, and then, after a brief argument with the priest about the homily, on to the airport. As they said their goodbyes, Tom wondered if he would ever see Pat again, and Pat wondered if her hair would ever recover. When Pat arrived home in New York, she told her mother,
"I met the greatest guy, and I'll probably never see him again."
She had no way of knowing at the time that in the decades to come, she would see more of him than she'd ever want. Though they were separated by the demands of the service, their relationship grew through letters and occasional visits.
December 11, 1967. Dear Tommy, I'm so excited to come to Chicago to see you and meet your family. Joan and I will be staying at Marist High School, where her brother is a brother. Oh, brother. I'm also excited for the Sandler and Young show, although I am not familiar with their work, nor is anyone else. I am familiar with their opening act, George Carlin, who is a noted hippie instigator. I have told my father that we will actually be seeing Soupy Sales. Warmest regards, Patricia.
They rang in 1968 in New York. It would be a year of unrest and upheaval. The next month, as Tom prepared to meet Pat for a weekend in Virginia Beach, change of a more personal nature was on the horizon.
January 29, 1968. My darling Patricia, the days without you are f***ing interminable. I can't wait to see you again. I have secured a goddamn beach house while the ship is in port. It sounded like a good f***ing idea at the time, but now I realize that it is in fact winter. I still have many events planned, so I am enclosing a schedule which indicates when you will receive your agenda. The first item on your agenda will be the arrival of your itinerary, as indicated on the table of contents. Best wishes, Tom Muldoon. P.S. Provided we can get the WikiWik hooked up, I will be tracking your flight by using the Guadalcanal's big spinning radar booga booga.
The weekend of February 9th, Pat arrived in Virginia, 6.5 minutes late. It was only their fourth date, but Tom had a question on his mind. He asked her,
"How would you like to be a Navy officer's wife?"
Pat answered,
Aye, aye.
The next morning, after a breakfast of champagne and grits, they celebrated their future together. When word of Patricia Farley's engagement reached Queens, hearts broke all over the borough. it was widely reported that 7 of her former prom dates threw themselves off the Unisphere. All 7 died, but 1 came back. Tom and Pat had little time to celebrate. The Guadalcanal weighed anchor and steamed toward another ferocious battle zone, New Orleans, Louisiana, and Mardi Gras. But while on the Mississippi River, the ship was pulled over, and Tom was arrested after failing the seaside sobriety test. He used his one phone call to ask Pat for bail money, and while she was at it, could she spare a few grand for an engagement ring? As their wedding date approached, Tom knew something special was about to happen. He figured the occasion warranted a parade, and that August he got one.
Well, by then I was working at the Pentagon, and one weekend I flew up to New York to see Patricia. Now, if I flew in uniform, I got a discount. So I was making my way to the airport.
$15 off. In those days, that was a lot of money.
Patty, please, I'm telling a story. When I get off the plane, Patricia has brought all the kids from the day camp where she was working to meet me. And these kids had told everyone at the airport that I was a war hero. Yeah, me, yeah, right.
And my brother Kevin was there. And I think Richard was there too. No, wait. No, if it was August...
Anyway, next thing you know, there's this huge parade all the way back to Woodhaven.
Where would he have been?
All these people think I just won the goddamn Medal of Honor or something.
So many people, right? And then you
had to... and then I had to buy all these people pizza.
And you weren't making that much money.
It was your idea!
Tom realized that he had never asked Pat's father for her hand in marriage. Back home in Woodhaven, before Tom could even get the question out, Art went into the kitchen to open a bottle of champagne. On the one hand, Tom was excited that Art approved. But on the other, he was disappointed by the lack of grits. The champagne was about to flow again as plans for the October wedding were finalized. The morning of October 26th was gray and rainy, but it marked the dawn of a new life for Tom and Pat. As they knelt before the altar, Tom couldn't help arguing with the priest. Tom eventually became so frustrated that he conducted the rest of the service himself.
Do I? I do.
During the reception at the Cresthaven Country Club, there was an enchanted cake, one with a sword embedded in it. A sword that could only be removed by the rightful king and queen of queens. Tom and Pat couldn't get it out, so they just ate around it. By the end of the day, 2 families had come together. They had come to America by different roads, but shared common dreams for their children. Through them, a new family was formed. And in the decades to come, Tom and Pat would welcome children and new friendships, and an ever-widening family born out of a chance encounter and strengthened by love.